chasing the juicy girls. Unfortunately, what juicy girls are, they're prostitutes that are out in South Korea. And they'll say, oh, they call them juicy girls because they offer, obviously, they're offering favors that are explicit. But not only that, they try to lure you in. They're like, oh, can you buy me a drink? And do you want to buy a drink? And that's how this whole thing sets up. Trust me, I've seen plenty of this crap that was happening. And in fact, I've had to pull a couple people out of them damn bars. Okay. But with that being said, I just thought about that right now. Like, that's like over 25 years ago or whatnot. But anyway, it is what it is. You know, it's a bad situation where you got troops that are in these places, okay, and they're not serving any purpose. They're not strengthening the army. They're not there for any purpose. They're just there to party, get drunk, hook up with a couple of pros, and that's it.
Try to live well and prosper. Don't trust your doctor. Ruthless with my wordplay. No, I'm not a shotter, but I got them hits, man, coming straight out the barrio. That's why I'm hip-hop Sicario. I like my privacy. I show out every now.
Everyone, back to the Rolo Runs the City podcast. I am your host, Rolo, and I am glad to be back with you for another week, another episode, so we can go ahead and harp on some of these things that we're trying to get through in life. Professionally, personally, you know that we're developing in any way possible. If you're not developing, you're dying, so you might as well dig the hole right now. But we know you're lazy, so don't worry about digging the hole. Just find the nearest hole, jump in it, and just hope somebody throws dirt on it. But with that being said, man, you guys already know the particulars. RoloRunsTheCity.com. That's all things Rolo, man. If you guys are on socials, definitely hit me up at Rolo Runs the City Podcast or at Rolo Runs the City Music on Facebook and Instagram. You hit up both of those, you're going to get me no matter what. As well as I'm on TikTok at Rolo Runs the City _. And not to forget, I am on X at Rolo Runs the City. And if you are on the streaming platforms, definitely look at Rolo Runs the City. You're going to either run into the music or the podcast. Feel free to listen to both, as well as Rolo Runs the City on YouTube if you guys are looking for video content. And of course, if you're on Spotify, you'll be able to find the video and audio on there as well in reference to the podcast. But without further ado, we're going to go on with this show. And the show is Leadership Isn't Always Sexy. And it absolutely isn't. At the end of the day, you see a lot of guys, whether they want to be quote unquote entrepreneurs, things of that nature, that they're natural born leaders. You see them, they're either, on the rented lifestyle on some yacht, or, flexing on an exotic rental car. If they decided they wanted to go ahead and rent out, something real flashy like a Porsche or whatnot, they actually do have those. They're not going to have them at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, so don't try that. But they do have exotic rentals for sure. And a lot of your favorite influencers are stunting on them all day long, trying to go ahead and give you the facade of them doing it. And they're not doing it. It's a rented lifestyle. It is what it is. It's not always sexy, man. Everybody wants to be the boss until it's time to do boss things and responsibility shows up. Then people are trying to hide behind a rock. The reason why that's being said is because you have many people who want to flex a title, but when it comes to this is the title that you're upholding, these are the responsibilities you have, people want to cower down. They're quick to tell people what to do. They're quick to try to say, hey, I'm so-and-so and I run this and I run that. But it's the same thing of, I used to say this all the time in reference to leadership, the same way that you want to accept the praise when things are going well, you're going to have to accept the criticism when things are going bad. It just is what it is. It's a double-edged sword, man. You're going to get cut either way. So you might as well just do the best you can and handle your situation the way you can. And just not so much hope for the best, but just execute what you're going to do daily and understand that with good comes bad. It is what it is. People always want to have that title and they want to be, I'm the boss, or I'm the entrepreneur, and they want to hold this certain image, and they want to have this this notion of saying that they're continuously building is like, oh, I'm just, a creature of adaptability and I'm always creating and building. If I had to start from zero tomorrow, this is what I would do. And a lot of times people are full of it. It is what it is. It takes a lot of hard work to actually build something that's worth having. And if you think you're going based off of reputation, that's one thing. But if nobody knew you and your business was wiped out tomorrow, it's going to take you not as much time because you've figured out your pitfalls and your hiccups, but it's still going to take time. And we all know that time heals all. Time is our greatest asset. But at the same time, understand that time must be put in. It is what it is. But true leadership, right? I'm going to be honest with you, man. Went through it myself. Had a crazy hectic week, okay? Is, sitting on the phone, waiting on the IRS on the other side to go ahead and talk to you so you can go ahead and, chime in on your inquiries and see if you can get any resolution, fixing mistakes that your bank made, things of that nature, reviewing, because we all have expenses that we have to. I mean, it doesn't matter whether if you're an entrepreneur or it doesn't matter if you're just working a 9 to 5 and you come home and you got bills to pay. We all have expenses that we have to make sure that gets reviewed, make sure we're not getting overcharged. But at the end of the day, discipline, patience, and emotional control is absolute leadership. It's not saying that you have this title, but yet you cower once responsibility comes. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that regardless of what's coming at you, whether if it's praise or criticism, if this is the title that you want to maintain, whether if you want to be a quote unquote boss or an entrepreneur or some sort of a leader, understand that leadership comes with two major factors. And, those factors are, praise and criticism. And a lot of time you're going to get more criticism than you do praise, to be quite honest with you. But when you get praise because you're doing things the way they're supposed to get done, you're going to get a lot of big praise, man. We always say that the good always outweighs the bad, no matter how much consistency that the bad has shown up. But as long as you can go ahead and execute and make sure that your good weighs a ton, it definitely outweighs the bad. You're going to probably face about 80 to 90% bad. And then that 10% you're hoping carries a lot of weight where it diminishes what you're doing in reference to dealing with bad and accepting good. I think you guys are getting that. I'm trying to put it in simple terms, but just being honest with, especially with men, masculinity isn't loud. It isn't rah, just growling and everything, it isn't fake alpha nonsense or social media flexing influencer energy. It's actually, handling pressure quietly. You know what I mean? Like we said earlier, just doing the best you can to stay emotionally controlled, protecting your family financially, protecting them physically, of course. You don't want anybody to do any harm to your people, but, at the end of the day, you want to make sure that as long as they're looking at you, you want to be their safe haven. Okay. Fixing issues without applause, man. A lot of times you're not going to get applauded for the things that you do. And a lot of times people won't know that you're doing them until you're no longer here to do it. That's just the nature of the beast. It's like, oh, well, how did this happen? It's like, oh, that's what so-and-so used to do. Yeah. So I personally understand that. And I'm very appreciative, and I always exercise gratitude with everyone that I come in encounter with, because like I said, we don't do this alone. We absolutely it takes a village, and that doesn't just go in reference to certain people. It's everybody, man. It takes a village, man. If anybody tells you that they're self-made, they're full of it. They're not self-made. Everybody needs help and assistance at some certain point. And like I said, don't ever say, oh, I'm self-made, or oh, first generation billionaire, I'm out of my family, and I did this on my own, because last time I checked, Jeff Bezos ain't delivering my Amazon packages. You know what I'm saying? And Elon Musk ain't on the assembly line making sure that those Teslas are rolling out the way they're supposed to. Somebody else is doing it. So no, nobody's self-made. You may be a brilliant savant, great idea, and incredible strategist, but everybody plays a key role in society. Nobody is self-made. Nobody wants to hear it because that's fiction. It is what it is. Okay. And remember, we also have to pay attention to detail. And that, my friend, truly is masculinity because of the fact that you have the understanding of what needs to get done, when does it have to be done, and you got to carry out the process in between that. So many people want to just sit on their hands like they always do and just hope for the best. Unfortunately, with many of the issues that we run into, we have many people that are assigned a job. And unfortunately, many people are at mercy to someone doing their job. And it's like, hey, if I could press the button for you, man, if I can go ahead and execute on that, I would, but I can't. I need you to make sure you follow through on this process. And many people don't take that serious, man. There's a lot of people out here that are complaining they don't have jobs or they want to work. But then when they get into the position, then they no longer want to be there. Okay. Or they just want to go to the job to collect a paycheck without actually doing any work. This is a society that we're living in now, people. I'm just being quite honest with you. Okay. I mean, I know when I worked in the civilian sector, working in logistics, dealing with several different warehouse personnel folks, people would show up every day knowing that they just had one job to do every day, and you would consistently have to remind them what their job was. I don't want to bag on any sort of generation, but unfortunately, it's your younger generation, man. You're freaking your millennials, your Gen Zs, and I hate to see what Gen Alpha is going to look like because truth of the matter is that these people are the ones that are going to be taking care of us when we're like old and decrepit. And you're really hoping that they can execute on doing their job and making sure that we absolutely feel at peace because we feel like we're in good hands with our future. Like when they used to say the kids are the future, let them lead the way and all this other stuff. Like it sounds all like, it sounds corny, but at the end of the day, it truly is the absolute truth. I mean, our youth is our future of our societies. So we're hoping that we're not backpedaling and we're not getting into a point where it's like we're regressing as opposed to progressing. But only time will tell. We have been talking about time. Time is your greatest asset. You could always make up money, but you can't make up time. But anyway, at the end of the day, people have to be disciplined with their emotions. The easy move for anybody, okay, is you could just absolutely get angry, let, one little mishap ruin your whole day. And that's absolutely an option that you could take. I wouldn't, want you to take that role and let that just snowball into this big negative effect. But unfortunately, many people don't know how to compartmentalize and say, okay, this happened, then I'm over here, totally different situation. Let me execute on what needs to get done. Okay. But execution, excuse me, execution and emotion leads to despair. And the reason why I say that, there's so many folks that get angry about a situation and they're like, oh, well, I'm going to get this done. We're going to take care of this. And then next thing you know, they regret what they did. And the reason why they regret what they did is because, like they always say, cooler heads prevail. And that's an absolute truth. You have to sometimes separate yourself from the situation, assess what's going on, go back to it with a much clearer mind. When you operate in anger, bad things happen. I mean, you can get fired, you can fire people without any really good reason that you absolutely needed. Hell, you can break up with a significant other, possibly get divorced, ruin a great relationship because of some little miscommunication, misunderstanding, some disagreement you had with your children. And the next thing you know, you guys fall out like forever. You know what I'm saying? Like it's an ugly situation. So, you definitely don't want to execute based on emotion, because it just does lead to despair, because at the end of your feelings is nothing, man. If you're not being calculated and you're just being emotional, that just it's a recipe for disaster, you know. But and panic just doesn't solve anything. Okay? At the end of the day, bills still need to get paid. Kids still need to be led, okay, especially if you're a parent, okay, or if you're a community leader, whatever you do. And your community needs absolute clarity. So for me, I know that I advocate for certain communities. If I go out there angry, pissed off, just saying, I don't want to deal with this and I don't want to deal with that. Next thing you know, they're like, man, we're relying on you to get this done. I mean, what can we absolutely do? Now you're going in there frantic, you're going in there upset, and they expect to rely on you. Well, now who are they going to rely on? And now they got to find somebody else they can rely on. And hopefully they'll be able to rely on them. But evidently, we're having this conversation about how many people are just not reliable. It is what it is, man. And, if you're flustered, things can't happen. And that's the absolute truth. I know when I get angry about something, I got to kind of step back and I have to reassess what's going on. I say, okay, what's going on? Let me do this, snap. I literally like pull out a piece of paper. I start like jotting notes down and saying, okay, how can I properly assess the situation? And then I just start making this very meticulous list about what needs to get done. And I know sometimes it sucks. Sometimes it's time consuming, but it keeps me from making any mental errors going forward. Okay. So then that way I can properly make sure that I can assess the situation as opposed to just, going all willy nilly with it. Like there's many people in reference to a budget, right? You're supposed to have a budget. Many people are supposed to have a budget. Everybody's supposed to have a budget. Evidently, people don't budget. They get to a point where they're like, "Oh my God, did I pay my rent this week? Oh my God, did I pay the car note?" But they're out partying and God knows where, and drinking it up and smoking whatever they're smoking and chasing females, and that just leads you to a life of despair. At the end of the day, first of all, you're gonna look like crap as you age. Obviously, staying up all sorts of time of the night, not doing productive work, but just out there chasing ass. Let's just be quite honest with it. And then on top of that, you're not taking care of the victories that need to be taken care of, which is absolutely keeping track of your money, making sure that your money does what it needs to do at the end of the month. The way I look at money, okay, is like I look at my net worth as soldiers. Okay. Every soldier has a job. Okay. This is no different than when I was in the military. Okay. And you apply this however you see fit. But I was talking to my wife about this concept the other day. And I was saying, now, can you imagine, right, if we're stationed out in South Korea? Area 1 is Camp Casey, which is Tongdushong, Camp Red Clouds, Wejeonbu. That's by the DMZ, by the border of North and South Korea, okay? Now, let's say we no longer had a mission there, but we just deployed troops there anyway. And they were doing nothing but just out there chasing ass, chasing the juicy girls. Unfortunately, what juicy girls are, they're prostitutes that are out in South Korea. And they'll say, oh, they call them juicy girls because obviously they're offering favors that are explicit. But not only that, they try to lure you in. They're like, oh, can you buy me a drink? And do you want to buy a drink? And that's how this whole thing sets up. Trust me, I've seen plenty of this crap that was happening. And in fact, I've had to pull a couple people out of them damn bars. Okay. But with that being said, I just thought about that right now. Like, that's like over 25 years ago or whatnot. But anyway, it is what it is. It's a bad situation where you got troops that are in these places, okay, and they're not serving any purpose. They're not strengthening the army. They're not there for any purpose. They're just there to party, get drunk, hook up with a couple of pros, and that's it. So that's the way I look at my money. I'm like, if I'm doing bad with my money now, in reference to my money, like if I'm just going out to eat every day, eating fast food, just buying stuff that I absolutely don't need, that's equivalent to a couple of troops that are going down to the downtown area of wherever they're stationed at and just getting plastered and spending money on dumb stuff and just totally serving no purpose. So that's the way I look at my budget. Now, when I'm paying the bills, doing what needs to get done, I'm allocating certain funds. So then that way it's like, okay, bills are paid. We have X amount of money for investments. We have X amount of money for advertising and promoting, as well as X amount of dollars that we're going to give out some free t-shirts. So that's going to be good with advertising costs as well. Things of that nature. When you're doing things like that, now those are your dollars, your troops that are actually being deployed the right way. So then that way we can win the war. Okay. And whatever your war is, whether if you're trying to make sure that you can go ahead and get the word out about your business, you're trying to make sure that you have your financial house in order. You want to make sure that you're investing your money, you're saving your money, you're looking forward to retirement, things of that nature. But whatever you do, man, do not deploy your troops to the juicy girls. Okay? Basically, stop throwing away your money on things you don't need, crap you don't need, things that are not serving your purpose, as well as eating a whole bunch of fast food. You're going out 4 to 6 times a week eating out when you can actually cook a damn meal in your house. And that's going to save you money all on its own. But not only that, making sure that your money is growing and absolutely working for you as opposed to you working so hard for your money. Okay, which is what a lot of people do. And it's an old model of trying to increase your net worth. Actually, you're not really increasing much. You're just one paycheck away from being homeless. And that's many people, man. Like, it is what it is. Life happens. Okay. And I don't mean this to be in a negative light, but this is truth, man. This is actual truth. So that's the way I look at those situations. Okay. And I'm sorry I had to elaborate on that, but it just absolutely is true. So you want to look at your whatever you see fit, man. Whether if you're a fireman or you work in some sort of like, you know, in warehousing or whatever you're doing, just related to your situation. Say, hey, how am I going to go ahead and I'm going to deploy this personnel? Let's make sure that we're getting everything that we need to be paid, gets paid. And you start treating your stuff like that. And then you're like, okay, we need to replenish the troops. So we need to replenish the workforce. That means you got to increase your income. And a lot of people don't understand. A lot of times it's not how much you make, but it's how much you keep. There's plenty of millionaires out there that are broke because what they're trying to do is they're trying to just go ahead and throw this millionaire lifestyle at you. And it's like, dude, like you're barely making it. I mean, your company's making millions of dollars, but you're spending at equally as much and you're just barely surviving. So unfortunately, that's the reality for many people. You know what I say? It is what it is. But anyway, back to what we're talking about with just the non-sexy things, right? But we'll get to that in a moment. But like for me, for instance, people see that I compete in races. They're looking at these podcast episodes. They see that I release music, and these are absolute wins for me, right? But the real victories come from the things that I don't want to do, right? Like I got to make the unnecessary phone calls, like to the IRS or to the bank or whatever it is, right? Expenses that need to be handled and making sure that my family's protected in every way, physically, financially, whatever it is, spiritually sound. We want to make sure that we keep a great Carabello house in order. That's just what we do, right? And the real victory, man, is to just have peace maintained within your realm. Okay. And that's championship behavior. There's a lot of people, man, that they want to look at these external things and say, oh, I did this, I did that, I did this. Ooh, I'm winning. Look at me, man. I'm making it happen. And in actuality, what you're doing is you're putting out all this output, right? Because you're hoping for the greatest result. and you're tearing yourself up in the process. See, I appreciate the process. I appreciate the process of getting prepared for a race. I appreciate the process of getting ready for these podcasts, as well as the preparation it takes for me to put my music together, the preparation it takes for me to actually analyze the market and look at whatever I'm going to put my money into next, because I don't want to lose money. I mean, I'm not this cat that can be like, oh, it's okay. I lost about 10, 15,000. Hey, that's all right, man. We'll hit the market hard next week. Like, I don't got capital to make that happen. Okay. But what I'm trying to do is I want to make sure that I cover all my bases. And a lot of times that tedious work just looks like, man, you're being very meticulous about the situation, but it's not about being meticulous. It's just, you want to make sure that you're going to fail, obviously, right? But you're trying to do the best you can to, like, you know, lower those percentages down. Like, I'd rather say, okay, man, there's about a good 30 to 35% chance that I'm gonna fail. Instead of I say, hey, it's awesome, man. It's 50-50, man. Either you're gonna hit or you're gonna miss. I don't like those odds. At least I feel better where I'm like, okay, well, I've got about a good, three quarters of this possibility of this thing working in my favor. Now, there's a possibility that a quarter of this, or maybe, 30% of the odds are against me, but I will take my bet on those odds. Okay, so that's something that a lot of people don't really assess, and they absolutely should. Okay, but I'm going to tell you like this, people. At the end of the day, if you're frustrated with everything that I'm telling you, because you're just like, damn, I don't want to face the big bad wolf, and dude, sometimes you gotta face that wolf. Sometimes you gotta make that wolf your puppy. Sometimes you gotta slay that dragon. Especially like nowadays, we're getting to a point where our younger society are so used to texting that these kids get anxiety to make a phone call. They're scared to call anybody professionally, whether if it's to make appointments, if they got to call their banking institutions, if they have to just call anybody on a professional aspect that's not their friends, they get anxiety. Okay, people just have to do better. Okay, communication is key. If you're able to talk, if you're able to put one thought in front of the other, then do the best you can to convey your message and make sure you get things done, as opposed to like being a victim of circumstance, which is like, oh my God, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I had a feeling what was going to happen, but I just couldn't advocate for myself because of the fact that, you know, I just get anxiety when I talk. Dude, that is ridiculous. But it's true. And I'm not making fun of anybody who goes through this. That's not what I'm saying. Like, I know it sounds like I'm being condescending. I'm not. But what I'm saying is sometimes you just got to go and you got to slay the dragon. Okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to go to this gym that we call life. Okay? I want you to get your reps in, man. I want you to get your leadership reps in, man. I want you to get your discipline reps in. I want you to get your patience reps in, and I need you to get some, because at the end of the day, all the stuff that I'm pointing at you right now is, you would not believe that you got many people who are jacked in the gym that have none of these damn things. Maybe they just have discipline because they have the discipline to go in there every day, but are they leaders? No. Do they have the patience to do things? Probably not. Okay, and a lot of them may know how to work out where they don't really need the discipline. They just know how hypertrophy works, and they can hit the gym maybe 2-3 times out of the week. It is what it is, right? But what I want people to understand is, I need you to get these reps in. And the reason why you have to do it is because our world is absolutely needing this. At the end of the day, I'm looking and I'm like, dude, it's not so much that we're falling apart as a society, but it's like we're allowing things to just fall to the wayside. And then we wonder why AI is taking over everything. Like, people are so intimidated of AI, but people don't understand that AI is training itself off of our behaviors. So it's becoming the most ultimate resource because we are the ones who are providing the resource. So at the end of the day, you need to stop thinking like, oh, I need to refer to AI for this, AI for that. And then next thing you know, you're like, oh my God, I lost my job to AI, because we're being so reliant on things. But let's be honest. Like, for example, imagine things not getting done, with IRS, although we shouldn't have IRS anyway, but that's just another topic for another day. But, it is what it is. We all got to pay our taxes, do our stuff, right? Get in contact with IRS, and then you're talking to an AI, and the AI is trying to give you the best possible answer. Well, it's probably because the agent who used to work where that AI has now filled in was messing everybody's stuff up. Okay. Human error occurs. Absolutely. AI error occurs consistently. But that's the reason why we have to do what we can to get better as people. Okay. So you got to get your reps in, man. You know, whether it's paperwork, calls, making corrections, or adhering to your responsibilities, man. It ain't always sexy, but it is absolutely necessary. Anyway, man, the way I look at things, and I'm going to leave you with this. If you want to be great, you're going to have to dominate the boring, mundane task. That is my time for this week, my people. Definitely love you guys greatly. Greatly do appreciate you guys checking out the show. Like I said, feel free to hit up RoloRunTheCity.com. Got a whole bunch of things going on there. And finally getting back on the track, and we're racing, baby, you know. So obviously stay tuned for that stuff, because we got to put this body back in motion, you know. Like I said, 25, I was like done by March. You know what I'm saying? So like we're in April right now. So yeah, things are working out pretty well, man. You know, body's getting back stronger. We're getting back in the running, and we're going to do our thing, man. But look, y'all take care. Godspeed. I greatly do appreciate all that you guys have done in reference to comments, DMs, views, everything, man. Just supporting me. If you've been supporting me, I appreciate it. If you don't support me, that's okay too. If you have some negative comments, that's okay. I'm all about open dialogue. Criticism I could take. Hate, you can go to hell. Anyway, y'all take care. Godspeed. I greatly do appreciate you guys. Take care and be the GOAT. Never sheep, and don't sleep on your dreams. Peace.